Deepwokens Oaths, a set of beliefs or restrictions to oneself in order to gain strength through the song. Oaths within Deepwoken can be made to others who may grant you abilities, or they can be made to oneself in order to strengthen the body and mind. Deepwoken's oaths are meant to be a permanent part of who you are and are considered semi-permanent, and once obtained, they are not meant to be broken, and breaking an oath can result in negative effects to the user once done. Much like attunements, oaths channel concentrated magic powers from the song. Not being able to harness entire notes of the song, an oath lets you use magical abilities in a more concentrated but less freeform way, for allowing for certain application of moves and abilities. Also, I'm live on Twitch. Watch me on Twitch. I'm live on Twitch. You guys have to watch me on Twitch. I'm playing Devil May Cry on Twitch. I'm playing all 5 Devil May Cry games on Twitch. You gotta watch me on Twitch. I'm on 4 right now, Twitch. Now that you understand how oaths work and what they are, it's time to go over them. Starting with Oathless. Oathless is ironically an oath to not take an oath. By taking Oathless, you vow to not serve any master but yourself. This was the first oath in the game, and as such, it really doesn't have too much lore on it, because the only lore is that you just don't want to serve a master. Oaths are actually quite inconsistent in terms of lore, with some of them having a lot of lore, and some of them being very lacking in lore, and one of them having, well actually 2 of them having, no lore at all. Oathless is just funny because it is an oath to not have an oath, which is ironic, but that's really it. Next up is Vision Shaper, which is one of my favorite oath lore things. Vision Shaper is an oath which focuses on the song's application of illusory trickster magic commonly used by Elita and other Vision Shapers. The oath itself is made with the Nest Mind, a weird multi-headed owl being which invades the user's mind and allows them to bring visions of life based on illusion magic into reality. Now, the Vision Shaper oath is actually the first malicious deal made with an oath master. Part of the oath is that over time the Nest Mind will feed on your brain and mind until there is nothing left and you're eventually killed. So although the oath is powerful and the Nest Mind gives you a lot of power, the Nest Mind only gives you such powers in exchange for using you as a source for its power. So eventually, if you stay a Vision Shaper, the Nest Mind will eventually kill you. This doesn't matter in game because it doesn't happen and there's no negative drawbacks to taking it, but the oath itself is quite unique in lore, being one of the only oaths where the oath master basically takes your life in exchange for power. Most oaths only require servitude of some sort, or like they give you a task or a set of ideals to live by, but Vision Shaper doesn't require any sort of servitude to the Nest Mind, and it doesn't provide you with a set of rules or beliefs to live by. The only requirement to this oath being that one day the Nest Mind will be what kills you. Jet Striker is the next oath, and its oath master dynamic is unique in the fact that Illyrian, the oath master, doesn't consider you an apprentice, but a rival, and she only takes on rivals for fun. The oath itself is a pretty cool one, with the lore behind it being that your movement flows with the song and you'll follow it without caring for the destination, because the journey is what truly matters in where you go. There isn't a massive amount of lore on this oath either, other than you basically just made a friend and now you like to race each other. So on to the next one. Arc Warder is next, and Arc Warder is actually pretty cool. Arc Warder is an oath taken to the Ignition Union as a whole, where you promise to protect the Ignition Union members around you and fight to your last breath. The Arc Warder suit fuses with the soul of the person who obtains it, and it's only given to the most trusted associates and warriors of the Ignition Union. The Arc Warder suit also uses a modified version of Plasma, using Flame Charm and Thundercall in conjunction for special attacks. Arc Warder is also the first oath here that you can't get back after breaking it, and also the Ignition Union really hates you if you break it, because you cannot get it back after breaking your oath with them, and they'll even just start to hate you. They'll just talk trash to you. They'll be mean. Blind Seer is next. Blind Seer is supposed to be the opposing oath to Vision Shaper. The oath supplements the blind and those who choose to learn to see without vision. The Vision Shaper oath was made for people who are supposed to cast illusions and bend reality for malicious reasons. Although not all of them are malicious, Blind Seer was instead made for people who are supposed to be immune to the effects of those illusions and insanity, who go down into the depths to help Pathfinders escape from the various trials. Which is also the way you're meant to progress the oath. Now, this isn't exactly lore, but this oath was made when Reaconteur was cosplaying a League of Legends character named Lee Sin, and thought it'd be cool to make an oath with blind and blindfolds in it. Next is Dawnwalker, which actually has some half-decent lore. Dawnwalker is taught to you by Claris, who wields the Radiant Tones of the song. The Radiant Tones of the song are light-based magical abilities which people are generally born with an affinity for, but can be taught to some extent. Claris learned the abilities of light-keeping from her childhood friend Vic, who is a natural-born light-keeper. Dawnwalker, in exchange, is 2 things to Claris. First of all, it is a combat-based usage and application of the Radiant Tones, which is unique because generally Light Capers are unable to use combat abilities with the Radiant Tones from what we've heard, and they're also unable to use normal attunements. Dawnwalker breaks these two norms of light keeping, allowing the Radiants to be used both in combat and in conjunction with other attunements. But Claris's main goal is to find a way for normal people to wield the Radiant Tones of the song for themselves to fight off the Depths and Void Sea. Now, Dawnwalker is basically her test trial run of this, and although it isn't used in the way she hopes for, and also isn't nearly as easy to wield as she wants it to be, it is still a normal person utilizing the Radiant Tones of the song to some extent, so it's the first step of progress towards her main goal, which is teaching people to wield those notes of the song that can properly fight off the Void Sea. Next up is Blade Harper, and the lore behind this one is just Bleach Bankai. Essentially, in obtaining the oath, the player does a reflection ritual which allows you to look into your and your weapon's souls and futures. When you look into the future, you see various routes and paths your life may take. You then vow to your sword that you will follow the route that keeps you by your weapon until the day you die. That's really it for this oath. Fade Trimmer is next. The lore of this oath is that you went to barber school, and upon completion you get a pair of sentient scissors and you're drawn to fucked up hairlines so you can fix people up. This is mostly a joke oath, so not too much lore here, but it is one of two oaths that use tools and supplementation with the abilities that you get from it. The other one being Salt Commiss, which we'll bring up later. The next oath, however, does have quite a bit of lore. Contractor is the Evil Ministry Oath. This oath is given to you by Zaire, the fourth prophet of the ministry, aka the Lord Regent. The puppet strings you get as its cosmetic for the oath now represent your undying and really not that voluntary servitude to the ministry. Breaking this oath makes you essentially kill on sight for all ministry associated people, including Etria, since they're basically puppeted by the ministry. The main point of servitude involving this oath from the Lord Regent is for you to kill people who won't submit to the ministry. This is why you're required to kill oath having players in the depths for its progression. Most non-ministry liking NPCs will consider you evil if you're a contractor, with Duke Aricia saying, "There's no reasoning with a monster like you. For Lumen's salvation, I will be the one to slay you." It's also interesting how much this oath affects how you're perceived. Grand Sudaruska, the living axe, for example, refuses to be used by contractors because the axe rejects your ideals and won't bind to your soul. Now, this ties back to the lore of Grand Sudaruska, where the ministry pretty much killed Sudaruska the Undying, which forced her to turn herself into the axe, which is now the Grand Sudaruska weapon. The divers also hate you as soon as you become a contractor, probably because they're in association with the central authority, who considers the ministry an enemy, but that's all for this oath. Next up is Link Strider. This oath has no lore. Literally no lore. The person who was supposed to write the lore and working on this was Iltria, the developer, and I'm pretty sure that Iltria is no longer part of the dev team, so there's no lore at all for Link Strider. But next is Chain Warden, an oath given to you by the Central Authority. In lore, the Chain Wardens are Central Authority's enforcers who use the chains to capture and punish people who oppose the justice of the Central Authority. You're basically just an abusive police officer as of becoming a Chain Warden, because that's all they do. Next is Star Kindred, which I actually really like the lore for this one, but Star Kindred is the second malevolent oath, which you probably wouldn't want to take in lore. The Star Kindreds are basically just ascended cultists. The Star Kindred Church is a cult which worships the Celestials and believes that they can ascend like Deepwokens, like Amoris Pleatsky and the First Prophet, by just eating Celestials and drinking their blood. The ichor that you drink, which gives you the oath, is probably just viscera and blood of celestial beings, and the transformation of becoming a Star Kindred also leaves the consumer in a constant agonizing pain as their body mutates and grows wings which are unnatural due to the consumption of celestial parts. This does mean that every time your wings come out of your back, it is extremely painful, but also drinking the ichor does one of two things. It supposedly gives you a weird level of innate knowledge, or, you know, what I think is going on here is that it just causes you to go insane, because after drinking it, the ichor speaks to you, giving you some level of innate understanding of the world around you. Now, this is just my theory, but I think that the act of cannibalism is causing a negative psychological effect on your character, and the weird blood viscera thing isn't talking to you. Anyway, the same way the Star Kindred Oath and Church came to exist is actually the same as the Pale Briar. You see, the Pale Briar weapon was gotten by Maestro, who you get in the boss fight if you're a heavy user. Maestro got the Pale Briar on an expedition against the Star Kindred Church, and the weapon is just, it's like a priest's little staff thing, except it's coated in the Celestial Ichor, which gives it its weird various heavenly abilities like its crit. It's just a really evil weapon made of angel's blood. Next is Saint Sworn. This oath is pretty unique and actually has quite a bit of lore, most of it being kind of indirect though. Essentially, the old heroes, which wielded magic blades, wanted someone to carry on their mission of protecting Lumen after they had all died. For those of you that don't know, Lumen is the Deepwoken world. So they infused their souls and attunements into their weapons, creating the 5 heroes' blades. The oath requires you to align your strength with the 5 naturalist attunements and then connect with the souls of the various heroes, giving you some special dialogue from each of them about their attunement. Now, most of their dialogue is just about the attunements themselves. It's pretty insignificant stuff. It's basically just them giving a description of their attunement and saying something like, oh, this attunement is so strong, this thing will happen if you can't control it properly. Like the fire guy says that it leaves ruins in its path because it's fire. Now, they all do this except for the Shadowcast hero. The Shadowcast hero does not talk about the shadow attunement. He instead says, once I stood with the 5, a hero among them, but loyalty, it's a fragile thing. Betrayal? It's as inevitable as the night. Which does actually imply he was potentially betrayed by the other Saint Sworn heroes. Now, it could be the other way around, but since he's kind of like, he only talks about himself in reference to being a hero among them, I think what happened is that they betrayed him and forced him to put his soul in his sword when he didn't want to. Although that's just a theory on my end, I don't know what actually happened here. Hopefully we get some more lore involving this because it's actually pretty cool. Next is the oath Salt Chemist. This oath is really just an oath to alchemy as a concept. Upon drinking the root panacea, your perception of reality is altered to the point where you can see the way matter is arranged, and you can now see the building blocks of life. Your body also becomes usable as a distillery somehow, meaning that fermentation is a process which now actively occurs in your body. As for the oath, it doesn't give you any real abilities other than that. The rest of the oath is equipment you use with the auto brewery system, making the only actual effects the oath gives you is the heightened perception and knowledge of the world around you, along with your stomach passively producing yeast, I guess. Now, our second to last in-game oath is going to be the Soulbreaker oath, and the lore writers didn't finish Soulbreaker. This is the only oath that doesn't have any lore that could have. Like, I guess Iltria left the team, so there's no lore on Linkstrider, but this oath has no lore for basically no reason. This oath is, however, presumed to be a weakened version of the same oath that the King of Etria had, but that's not confirmed, and this oath has no lore. So on to our last in-game oath, before covering the ones that aren't in-game. Silent Heart. The oath master for Silent Heart is the Dreadstar, which resides in the Void Sea. The Dreadstar is an amalgam of torn apart and reattached souls of dead people who have an immense hatred for the song and its usage, along with magic as a whole wanting to destroy the song and kill everyone who uses it and its attunements, claiming that they abuse the song and its power. The Dreadstar actually isn't a very powerful entity at all, however. It believes that it can fuse with someone to rewrite their heart and body to reject the song. However, upon obtaining Silent Heart, it is only capable of rejecting words of the song being mantras and attunements being part of the song which it hates most. Assuming the Dreadstar made its perfect creation, a few different things would happen to you when you accepted it. First of all, you would no longer be an aspect, but a human. There are no remaining humans in the Deepwoken world because the song morphed people via aspects, making them resemblant of animals in the conditions that they lived in. Second of all, you would be considerably weaker as the song strengthens the body, which is why Deepwoken characters are generally considered superhuman in comparison to normal people. The new powers you get from Silent Heart are actually just a different way to wield the song, which ironically undermines the Dreadstar's entire goal, because it wasn't strong enough to make those changes for itself. Now for the various oaths which are not in the game, first up being War Master. This was confirmed by the developers to be coming to the game, probably along with whatever Central Luminant and Central Authority origin involved update. Now this oath is confirmed to be used by Warden Jericho, who I covered in the faction lore video from a couple of days ago. This oath is mentioned by the Windrunner to be the counter oath to Contractor, as well as Warden Jericho generally being heavily against the Ministry. Now the source of this oath's power is also stated to be something called the Circle of Honor, but not much else, if anything, is known. Now the second oath that I wanted to cover, which is in the game but will probably never be obtainable, is the Blood Oath. So if you guys know, blood as an attunement was initially supposed to be an oath. It was not going to be an attunement. I'm very happy I ended up as an attunement instead of an oath, because an oath would have been kind of lame. Now, there are two versions of it, however. The attunement version, which you learned from Verelda, which is the one you get in game, and then the oath version, which is not obtainable in the game, but is given to people by the second prophet. Now, the oath version is supposed to be a oath sworn version, which the second prophet forces its weaker students to use, which basically prevents them from doing certain things with it, so they can only use certain moves, but they're also unable to use the attunement for its utility-based and magic healing-based properties, so you're pretty much only allowed to use it for the evil stuff like killing people, which is bad. Varelda instead bypassed that oath by tricking the second prophet and was able to get the blood attunement. Now the next oath and final oath, which isn't in the game, is the Knives of Eyeless time manipulation magic. Archmage confirmed that this was an oath which they used to slow down time. It's also possible this is part of or the oath Eyeless mentioned as her part of being a Voidwalker, but that's about it for this oath, and we don't know if it's ever even gonna come to the game. It probably will. I think it will, but we don't know that. Anyway, I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. I know you guys have been liking the lore videos, but aspects or in-game races is one I likely won't be doing. I saw a lot of you asking for that in the last video, but there really isn't any lore for most of the races individually. Now, there is some lore for the races that aren't even obtainable, obviously, because the devs like writing their own OCs more than the game. And then there's some lore for races that the devs really like Vesperians and Ganymedes having their own lore, but the rest of the races really don't have very much. I'll probably cover legendary weapons next, so let me know what you guys want to see. Shoutouts to YouTube members Green, Pickle, Brick, Goobka, Highcard, and Drizzy Drake Fan. Hope you all enjoyed. I love you all. Watch me on Twitch, and goodbye.